that we are live on the Facebooks. If
It
you
says live on Facebook, and it now says recording.
so if you are in Facebook land and you see us and you hear us, let us know. We would love to see and know you. And
I'm swapping
eventually,
out my background. Really quick. Where'd it go?
Eventually, will let me know that we are
we'll
live.
Get there.
So I'm Mindy of MindyGets.com, and this is my sidekick and partner. Oh, I love that.
I figured it's not Italy, but you know.
No.
It's a coffee shop on the street.
I'll take it.
Anyway, so not to interrupt you.
That's all right. You are Auntie Kirka.
I am Auntie Kirka.
Woohoo! Yay!
Yes, and yeah, when I was in Dublin, that was one of the things I really tried to do too, was to try to find some of those kind of coffee shops that I could sit at, or even just small cafes where I could sit on a street like this, or kind of sit. And I found one that I went to a couple of different times. Yeah, and they're actually known for their restaurant behind the coffee shop, and I never ate in there. I did a lot of sitting and reading in the coffee shop part in the front. So I found some really nice ones. Found this really tiny one that was really cute and had a piece of chocolate cake with my coffee.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Cinque Terre, tiny coffee shop, chocolate croissant, tiny little lane, big ocean. Yeah. Loveliness.
Big ocean. Oh, yeah. Big ocean.
Deep breath. So we were so busy talking about baby wombats and pizza.
Yeah, they go together.
In our pre-talk that we didn't talk about what we're talking about. And part of probably why we didn't talk about what we're talking about was because we wouldn't be talking at this point. We would be blubbering. And so we saved that blubbering for you for now. And I didn't get to tell Auntie Kirka that I have a plan.
We have a plan for today?
I know.
We have a plan for today. What?
Right. It may seem like that
we about
right.
Plan to have a plan.
I know. I didn't even have a plan. Right? So most of the time we just talk off the cuff, what's on our heart. We follow our intuition. Usually some topic comes up during the week and we plan to talk about it, but we talk about it in front of you. We don't strategize. There's no canned content, right? And it's just us. And like you would have a coffee date with a friend. I mean, maybe you needed to talk out something specific and maybe you wanted to talk to a friend about X, Y, or Z, but you didn't sit there and like script it, right? So that's what mom talk is. It's this sort of thing. But today, happy Mother's Day. We are going to talk about being motherless on Mother's Day. And I was kind of noodling it around during the week because I thought, I have nothing to say. My mom's downstairs right now with my kiddo. But then I realized I do have something to say, and I'll say that at the end. But like most of the time I had some thoughts in the shower. I showered today.
Yeah.
And so I thought I would kind of maybe ask some questions of Auntie Kirka and let her fill in some answers if she's brave and willing to do so. Do you trust me?
Always.
Okay.
Well, most of the
time. Okay, so motherless on Mother's Day.
Mm-hmm.
How many motherless Mother's Day have you had?
Well, Harley is 14 and a half. So I would not have been pregnant on Mother's Day. Yes, I was pregnant that Mother's Day. So, and I firmly believe that you are a mother as soon as, I think, not to get into any conversations around that, but I felt like a mother the moment I was pregnant. Let's go with that. So, yeah, she was born in November. So I would say then 15. I'm always bad at that math for some reason.
Yeah, I was doing some calculating too, and I was like 18, 19, 18, 19. I don't know. That doesn't make sense.
Going backwards from, it's like she's 14 and a half. Okay, well, okay, so that would be 15 years, I guess, then.
15
Yeah, that's the math part that I'm always off on.
So you have been a mother without a mother for 15-ish years, but you've also been a daughter without a mother longer than that.
Yeah.
So when we were in college a year and a half ago, also known as more than 20, when did we meet?
I like a year and a half ago.
Right? Like,
I actually did this, but I forgot what the math is. I did the math the other day, and it's 23 years. Well, for me.
Okay.
I know. Yeah, it was 23 years ago. Because I started to freak out. I was hitting my 25th. I'm like, nope, I have a couple of years left.
Yeah,
I was like, am I getting my 25-year reunion this year? I'm like, no.
Yeah, well, yes. Well, because I've been out of high school for 25 years.
Oh, well, high school longer than that, yeah.
Yeah, but and so I was like, well, it's maybe it's been 20 years. And I'm like, wait, you've been out of high school for 25. So, and if this happened in college, it has to be.
Yeah. It's Sunday morning.
Let's
not go that deep into math.
Not enough. Cheers. Good morning. Happy Mother's Day, Mama.
Yeah, I'm doing ice stuff. So I went with dirty chai.
It's 90 where you are. It's 30 where I am. Cheers. Mine's hot. Yours cold.
I was too tired to make coffee, so it's leftover coffee concentrate. And it's going to be 100 degrees today.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, as we digress again.
So Eric and I's friendship actually started because she lost her mother.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't really remember meeting you before Courtney's car. Yeah. I mean, it's been a year or two ago, but I don't.
Yeah, no.
You may have been.
Well, not that we didn't know each other were there.
Right.
Because that building in the dorm was pretty, we all knew who was there and who was around, and there's different groups within it, but yeah.
I was on the first floor. You were on the third floor.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
And Courtney had pie.
Huh.
Then Courtney had pie. No,
yes,
but yeah.
Courtney always had pie. But yeah, and I didn't know then what to do. What do you do as a 20-something-year-old kid? So a kid. I don't know that I was even 20 yet.
Yeah.
I was probably not 20.
I was, so you probably weren't.
Yeah. And so I didn't know what to do with or for someone who lost their mother. And I still don't. And I don't know that I did things that you needed to do. But what I wanted to talk about first, for anyone who this is probably a lot of people's first day, Mother's Day without their mother.
Yeah.
And or maybe the first Mother's Day that you aren't physically spending with your mother just because of all of this stuff.
Right.
And so I think the first step in the process of being with someone in grief is not encouragement. I think it's witnessing.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I knew clearly then was I couldn't be a witness in the I've been where you've been kind of witness, right? I and so I think that there are different experiences that need a witness that's the same. I've been where you are, I can see it, and I think there's others where maybe it's more powerful if that person is willing to see well beyond where they are to see the depth of where someone else is.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, well, no, because that makes sense. So even if you've been in the position, you haven't been in that specific situation either, right? I know several people that by now, 25 years later, because yeah, it'll be 25 years in this next January. So I've known people in the last 25 years that have lost a parent since then, obviously. But every scenario, even if it's similar, is different because everybody's relationship with a parent is different. Everybody's stage in life with their parent is different because, in the end, I'm trying how to say this without it being cold kind of thing. But in the end, we know we will lose a parent at some point, right? Because that's part of also some of the grieving processes, right? When you lose a child, because that's not the natural order, right? You don't expect to do it young. And then you don't know, obviously it's not something, even though you know it's going to happen, you don't plan for it. You can't plan for it. So the timing is always, so even when I've had a friend or family member who's gone through something similar, their situation is still different too, right? So you can't, having that awareness of, yes, I've even been through that, but I haven't been in your shoes specifically. So the trying to solve, right? Or trying to push them past grief or trying to, right, doesn't really solve, right? So being a witness and just being there is the best thing that you can do. Because, even if I have a friend that's in that same situation, I don't know how they're handling it. I don't know internally how they're processing it. I can't push them through steps. I don't know what their relationship with their mom was or wasn't, right? Because some of these grief processes, I think the other misnomer is, and where I haven't been through is distance from, what am I thinking of? Estrangement, sorry.
Okay.
Mourning, math, vocabulary, it all goes in the same thing. Estrangement. When you're estranged from your mom, there is grief in that too, right? So we're also not talking, there's death and then there's death of relationship too, right? So your mom may still be alive, but you haven't spoken to her in whether it's 6 months or 6 years or 16 years, right? Depending on what's going on, you don't know what that relationship is. So to make assumptions of what, or platitudes to say, right?
Yeah.
I've never been comfortable in, now granted, my mom's death is one of my first also dealings in that level of familial loss, because I'd lost grandparents prior to me being alive, those kind of things where you talked about people you lost, but then, by 20, I hadn't really lost a lot of, relatives or family members or friends. So, it was also my first large grief experience too. So, but maybe someone who's gone through a lot of grief. So all of those words to say, I think that's kind of a good way to go to it. Cliche sentences help because at least verbalizes something sometimes. But if you start off that way and then just presence and being there is, I think that's a good way to start.
Yeah. the witnessing process doesn't necessarily have to be filled with words. It can be filled more with presence or actions. You know, I know in our community, people still, you know, make sheet cakes and casseroles and whatever,
Hmm.
and take stamps and gifts to the grieving family. I don't know if that's what it's like in bigger cities or whatever, but that's a very real thing. We owned a grocery store growing up, and there were plenty of times that I was making veggie platters for
Hmm.
a funeral, not necessarily for the funeral dinner, but for, you know, a working mom who couldn't make a casserole but wanted to take
Hmm.
something to the family. And so that's what we did. And so it starts with witness, and witness allows the person also to express their story. Um, I'm sure we talked about some things way back in those days.
Yeah.
I don't remember a lot of the conversations, and it may have been little things, but just like this morning, you told me that your mother loved sharks. So we were talking kids, wombats,
Yeah.
sharks, whatever. And that was something that I didn't know. So even if she's been gone for more than 20 years, I'm still learning some things about her, which I think is special.
Well, and I think that's what I value a little bit about. Yes, please. Um,
Really?
he's going to get me coffee. Um,
Oh,
and
sweet.
one of the things that I value about, so again, I don't want to get into religion conversations and geopolitical conversations, but one of the things I value about the Catholic process of grief, right? It's 3 days of wait, right? It's it's church ceremony, it's graveside, or and then we do have, even big city, Long Island, we still did go back to the house full of people. People brought food, people sent baskets, whatever it is. But I think there's that misconception sometimes about that 3 days of kind of that process. And that's one of the things I value about that process, because it was, you're just sitting there, it's witnessing. A lot of the times you're not talking, you're just sitting with people and you're feeling presence and you're feeling love, right? You're surrounded by people that are there to support you. One of the big things that hit me at the time was, the people that gathered together, right, to help me get to the airport. You helped me get to the airport, help me get home. People I barely knew, right, at school. And then people that I hadn't talked to in a couple of months because I'd come out to school that I used to work with, they showed up, right? They came to the funeral. They showed up at the wake. Those kind of things where they barely knew her, right? You didn't know her at all. Because I would say she did come out with me, right? Helped me move out here. She was very ill, but she still got on a plane. She came out. She was well enough to travel. She'd gotten that. So, but she was here for 24 hours. So I think maybe my roommate met her, right? So, but still you were there because you knew me. It was kind of the same thing there, right? They knew me and they came to support and witness and just be there, because I think without saying much, I knew they were there, right? And even so, I think that's the opportunity. I value that part. So, we did our own witnessing when my father-in-law passed away, right? We did it a little bit more internally, but we still witnessed for each other,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So we didn't have the same process.
Yeah, was sitting on an exercise ball in my office when you called to tell me. And I slid off the ball and was sitting on the floor thinking how profoundly that hit me. But I realized in that moment it wasn't. I met Dennis's dad. He was a great man. But the power of the punch was being where I was in relation to you now I was processing
Mm.
you losing your mom, which is weird. But it was, I mean, my boss at the time, very good man, heard me plunk down to the floor and came in and it's
Oh,
like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, grass. Took me out to the grass and gave me a big hug.
Oh,
Weird woo-woo grounding. Like I'm like, I
no,
need
for you
this
that makes sense. As soon as I just was more like, did you say grass? It was more like,
grass. Yes.
what did I hear? Okay.
I needed to go stand in the grass and have a hug because for whatever reason I felt the enormity of, because we don't grieve people one time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you now had this place of witness for your husband, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had lost your mom, so you had a level of compassion and empathy to offer your husband, because it is a blessing and a gift to be able to have that space and that capacity to witness someone else's grieving. But you also were seeing him
Mm-hmm.
do the things that you had done. And it goes back through that. And I don't know what it was about that call, but like all of those things just were there. Like
Mm-hmm.
in an instant, I hung up the phone and I could see you two together and that loss and then your mom and like all of the ways that I couldn't understand, but I could see from this different perspective. And today, when I was thinking about that, I was thinking about when one of our friends lost her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And this friend was already a grandma, and our group of friends had some girlfriends who'd already lost mothers or been estranged from fathers or parents or whomever. And I was the only one for the group that came back to the family's house. And while we were friends, I had never physically met this woman who had passed.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't the closest friend in that group. And that it was a hard place to be. But today I finally realized, I'm a slow learner, I was a woman with a mother sitting at a funeral at the loss of a mother. I didn't have to be a woman who lost her mother sitting at another friend's losing a mother.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like, I could be the one to go back to the house and have lunch with the family because I had a mother to go home to tell about it.
Yeah.
I wasn't re-grieving the loss of my mother. I didn't need the space to process my own loss after helping a friend process her loss, right?
Right.
I'd always wondered, like, don't these people know what it's like? They lost their mother. Wouldn't they want to be there? Whoa, no.
Well,
You needed
sometimes,
this.
I mean,
I mean,
yeah,
logistics and jobs and
it all
life and
right. It all depends on your relationship too, and what your grieving process is, right? Because because I actually have felt sometimes a lot of, I've had friends that have gone through it, and I felt compelled to be there to witness and support, right? Knowing what they're going through. It's been hard. I've also felt pulled, but grieving when I can't be there. Some of the hardest hit has been my friends that have gone through it and I can't be there. And I've known the mom for a long time, or the dad, right? You get that call, right? I've been
Right.
dropped to my knees a couple of times, and it's sometimes that hurts. And then, you know, it all depends on who you are. It's the same, you know, like anything with grief, right?
Mm.
But yeah, sometimes it's, you had the capacity to be able to do that without revisiting something that may come up. So, and I'm sure she was grateful that you were there, and I'm sure she understood that they weren't, or didn't notice. You know,
Yeah.
it's very possible.
Yeah.
But and it's not about noticing, and I don't mean to say it that way, right?
Right.
Because whether or not you're there, or whether or not they know you're there, they know that the love is there,
Right.
right? It's more from, you know, so doing what you can. I've never begrudged anybody who couldn't be there, right? But you know, because we then lost my grandmother about a year and a half later, you know, so we kind of went through all of it again, kind of thing. So, but I've never begrudged anybody who couldn't be there for different parts of it, right? It's not who's there the most. That's the other thing, right? It's not who's there the most. It's, are
Right.
you there?
Right. Yeah. There's no successful grieving, and there's no like empathy winners, or
Right. Hey, boo, what's up?
uh,
Mhm.
no badges and prizes for that sort of thing.
Right.
So hi, little one.
Well, that's the thing. Well, and it's, I think that's a good segue because it's 8:30. So about, you know, continued witnessing, right? And it's knowing that in some way or another, it's not just a one day, oh, okay, well that's over. So, you know, the grief process is over. It's one of those things, again, it's easy to say, oh, well, we know we're gonna lose our parents at some time, right? It's easy to say that and say, so my grief doesn't have a place. But sometimes when you lose a parent young too, is you have grief at different he tilted his head back and started
I
falling
was just like,
asleep.
he's asleep.
You know, it's you have moments of continued grief as you get older too, right? And that's what things like Mother's Day sometimes brings up. Now, having kids myself, it's, you know, I'm grateful, and Mother's Day is a day of, especially because I worked to get kids, you know, and that I'm, you know, that's a badge of honor in any way compared to a mom who didn't. But I think you can get down. Yes, you can get down. You know, to me, having my own kids, it gives me a day of just. It is raining outside. Yeah. You want to see the rain? Well, not that way. You can see out the door over there. Okay. I don't know that it's raining. It's a little windy though. Sorry. Yeah, it is a little windy. Okay, I'm gonna be done in a minute. Okay. And a little rainy. And a little rainy. Okay. I was just saying. You know, having my own children now, Mother's Day is, or I try to make it, I try to have it as a day of love, and kind of in some ways a day of support for them. To me, sometimes it's not the actual day. I don't grieve as much today as I did for the last 2 weeks. Because, okay, it's just windy, not raining. Because it's, I guess, and granted, I'm in marketing. I understand the need to market and the need to get services and goods out there, especially right now. But to me, it's the time leading up, and it's the portrait that's painted. You can go potty. You can go. You're a big boy. Not right now, honey.
There will always be toddler potty breaks.
There will always be toddler potty breaks. So I'm sure you have something to say. I will be right back.
Yeah, so
I don't know how to mute. Here we go.
So Auntie Kirka is in marketing, and so she does a lot of working with small businesses and things to promote their goods and services, which right now is focused on Mother's Day. And so she is in the thick of it as far as all the memories. And I think she was talking about the picture that's painted, right? So there's a lot out there about intergenerational Mother's Day. And so it's the bringing home the brand new baby, and the siblings are there, and the mom is there, and grandma is there to support the mom. And so as a mother, I know that she and I have talked about what it's like to mother without a mother, and the things that her mother missed out on because she didn't get to be a grandma. And so years ago, Erica actually had a blog called Letters to Mom, and she would write these letters to her mama as part of the grieving process and part of the learning process, because having her first baby was another one of those events that is a two-sided coin, right? You're happy to be a mama, but you're missing grandma, and you're a new mama trying to learn to be a mama without your mama. And so I was just talking about like the multi-generational pieces, and
and that's
I don't know that. So not speaking for you, but because we've had lots of conversation, is that a rubber chicken? Levity.
If you can't see, okay, hold on. Let me turn off the background. That's what I was kind of going with, was the messaging. Hold on, I'm turning off the virtual background. Hold on.
That looks a little
because it's getting anyway. So yeah, it was it's that picture that's painted, and it's that grief process of, I don't have a picture on, well, I would say my mantle, but up on my bookshelf, of me and my mom and my grandmother as like two. I think my mom was probably pregnant with my sister, and because otherwise she would have been in the picture. So it's probably about two, in the park. There's a picture of the three of us, and I don't have that picture, and that's the picture that's painted, right? It's well, we can talk about the unfairness that's put on men for Mother's Day too, in that market. But in the images in the images that are not that, it's the 4 generations, right? And that's the celebration of Mother's Day. Even right now, with the messages change, it's about the virtual. Oliver, please. I know it's a funny chicken. It's a very funny chicken. Okay, but we need it not right up front with the camera, please. Okay, keep it right here. So, it's that message, right? That is the one way. So, and all the products are okay. Well, now that you're at a distance, right? Have the conversations. Why can't no iPad, portal, whatever product is going to be able to get me that conversation?
A different portal.
It's a different portal. Gotcha, right? Imagine. Now, I am grateful, I will say, for the strong women I have in my life, right? I am grateful for my mother-in-law. I've known her since I was 18. She's seen me grow up. She's seen me have kids. She's seen me as an adult. I'm grateful for everything that she is to me and to my children and to our family. And I'm grateful that she's in my life. I'm grateful for my stepmom, who came into our lives 5 or plus years, whatever it was. She's been in our lives for over 20 years. Right. She came into our lives, and she's been an amazing grandmother to my children. And I'm grateful to her, for her in my life. And in my dad's life, right? I'm grateful that he was able to find love again. You know, I'm grateful for the aunties that my kids have, right? I know that they don't have an absence of strong female figures in their life. So I try to, you know, see Mindy's face. She's making funny faces at you. I try to look at this day with a grateful heart about the things that I have found and developed. Ollie, I need it not that high in front of my face, please, okay? That we do have in our lives. And then look at that on this day. And then also, you know, there is some preparation. You do have to gear up for those messages. You know, they're going to come every year. And that's where that grieving process happens, right? Even as you advance in that process. And it's something that's lifelong, the earlier that you lose your mom in your life. Because there's always going to be something.
For you.
Thank you.
You have to open it.
I will. After I'm done talking, I'm going to.
You can put it right here.
Okay, thank you.
That's fine. I'll put it. I made
Oh,
that at school for Mother's Day.
so you may, thank you. So that's the, you know it's going to come. And sometimes you can be prepared for it, and sometimes you're not. It all depends on when the messages start, depends on when the conversations start. Sometimes, and that's, I think especially this year, a little bit hard because there's so much emotion going on right now, right? And that's something that people have to be aware of, is that if you're in that situation where you have that grief process already, and then you've added on the last 2 months of added grief, it can hit you. I know that piece has hit me a little bit. That, and there was a full moon this week on top of that.
I'll open it for you.
It's been a heck of a week.
I want to show you what
Yes,
I saw.
yes. And so
I showed stuff to you.
Part of the piece that I was thinking is being motherless on Mother's Day works in 2 directions. We can be in a place where we have lost our mothers, or we can be in the place where we are not mothers, but desire to be. And so
What?
I will propose, as always, that because we're getting longer in the tooth and chat than 30 minutes.
I will read this in like 5 minutes. I promise, okay?
That we will do the flip side of Mother's Day next week. Not to don't want it to feel like continuing to wallow, but I think expressing grief, witnessing that grieving process, and knowing that,
okay, I'll be right there, Ollie.
We're here for conversations. We're here for conversations in comments. We're here for conversations in private messages. We're here for conversations on the actual telephone or video chat. Because it's an important part of life, and mom talk is sometimes this silly rubber chicken. I went poopy, please wipe my butt.
Yeah.
My coffee is getting cold. But it is also those, I see your deep pain.
Mm-hmm.
I see this hurdle, this mountain that you want to overcome. And we're going to do it. I don't know how. I'm not a mountain climber, but, we'll find us a hot Sherpa and we'll do it, right?
And if I have to stand there, I'll stand there and just make sure you don't fall backwards.
That's right. I will be at the finish line cheering you on if you want to do a marathon. But we will be in it as together as we can together, right? However
Always
that
together.
looks.
Yeah.
And so thank you for being brave and enduring my questions and sharing your story, because I know.
Leave him alone, please.
I was trying to.
I
I
know
just
that there are
wanted
others
to-
that just need to know
I wanted to
that
pet
someone
it.
else
I wanted to
did
pet
it, is doing it, is
it.
living it. And
Wow.
so I will let you get to that all important card and to your
You opened
coffee,
it
which
for
is
me.
kind of.
I opened it for you.
Oh, that's precious.
Oh, look.
Oh, wow. That's great. Can't get even interested
What?
in that. You write it.
There's like 2 names.
It's 2 names.
Jack.
You
Jack
did
and
that.
that's my name.
That's
Well, this is your
awesome.
name there.
That's your name.
Yeah. What does it say?
It's your name.
That's my name. What does it say?
It's a CD word.
What does it say? But yes. Think on that note.
All right.
Once
Till
our
next
ability
week.
to concentrate now.
Yep.
It's like
Kids.
a heart inside.
Good for
It's like a
levity.
heart inside.
Mhm.
Like a heart
But
inside.
It's like a heart inside. Yes, it is a heart inside.
What? That don't. Your heart don't go right there. It goes in the middle of your chest.
good job, Oliver.
Good job.
Put Mama's heart right out there for everyone to see. That's kind of what Auntie Mindy did, so we're all good.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. And hopefully, put some comments, put your comments in there, put your questions in there. Like we said, we can get on, we can chat more, we can talk.
Yep. And we will see you around the block next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.